This week, the House finally passed its $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill with bipartisan support. So now the Democrat Party is focused on passing the Build Back Better Act, which could come to vote this week. It's a giant, nearly 2,500-page bill carrying a price tag of at least $1.75 trillion, scaled down by half from the original proposal. One criticism leveled by Republicans and by moderate Democrats like Joe Manchin is that no member of Congress can possibly know what they're voting on with a bill that big. Time is needed to study the implications. Some provisions have actually gotten a lot of public attention, but others really haven't, including provisions related to immigration reform, the implications of which will affect millions of people. Here to help us unpack what's in the act in the realm of immigration reform is Ken Cuccinelli, former acting deputy secretary of the Department of Homeland Security and now a senior fellow at the Center for Renewing America. Ken, welcome.
Good to be with you.
So since the year began, there's been a lot of attention on the southern border and the record numbers of people that have crossed into the country illegally. The Princeton policy advisors project by year's end, Border Patrol will have made about 1.9 million apprehensions, plus another 500,000 or more people who got into the country without being caught. Their numbers are added to the millions who have come before and have been living in the United States ever since illegally. So what is the administration's vision of what to do with this situation? And that's what the Build Back Better Act is trying to address. So Ken, tell us, what does the future hold from your reading of the act?
Well, their vision is to fund continuing to do it and to attract more people to come illegally to this country. Unfortunately, they have billions of dollars in here to move illegals from that status, to give them amnesty, and to fund the agency, United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, the legal immigration agency in the Department of Homeland Security, which I led before I became deputy secretary. And they are putting $3 billion into that agency, which normally has about a $5 billion annual budget, to benefit illegal aliens becoming legal in the United States. This is amnesty. It is funded amnesty. Now, there's two issues with that. One is just funding the amnesty for millions of people will encourage millions more to come, just like we've seen this year. But two, this is supposed to be a budget bill. And budget bills are not supposed to change legal policy. And this bill legalizes those who came here illegally before January 1, 2010. This is amnesty. And my understanding of the Senate parliamentarians' view is that amnesty cannot be in a reconciliation bill. So we shall see how that plays out, whether Democrats are willing to overrule the parliamentarian. And when I say Democrats, I mean all 50, because they will need all 50 plus the vice president to overrule the parliamentarian and advance some of these provisions. So the policy in here is to fund illegal immigration even further, believe it or not.
So the House Judiciary Committee put out a report on the provisions in the act that relate to migration, and they explicitly say this is not an amnesty, despite what Republicans want to call it. They say it's a pathway to legal residency. So how are they making that argument?
Well, that's legal. Amnesty is making people who are illegally here legal without them having to do anything to correct the legal status. They're literally just, by the wave of in this case, Joe Biden's pen, that will be the wand in this analogy, making millions of illegal aliens legal. That is amnesty. Their excuse that you describe as how they say it's not amnesty is because it doesn't take them all the way to citizenship. Rather, it gets them into legal status. But there are other ways. Once you're in legal status, I'm sure they fully expect the left-wing groups to sue these folks away to citizenship, and I expect them to win those cases. So this is amnesty. Anybody voting for this bill is voting not only for amnesty for millions of illegal aliens, but to fund their move from illegal status to legal status, to the order of $3 billion.
Okay, so that's the illegal immigration side of the equation, there's also provisions in there that relate to legal visas and backlogs and all of that. So what can you tell us about those provisions?
So there are lots of categories of visas every year, and they have in this bill a recapture provision. So let's say, I'm going to make numbers up for discussion, but let's say there were 500,000 green cards available in 2022 for employment visas, people coming to America to work. But they weren't all used. 400,000 were used. So what this recapture provision allows them to keep that 100,000 and continue to distribute them. They don't run out at the end of the year, as has historically been the case. The policy, again, this is a policy issue, not a budget issue, and I don't believe the parliamentarian would rule that this can legally be in a reconciliation bill, but it's in this bill right now. And if passed this way, it clearly demonstrates this administration wants to bring in millions, again, we're in the millions here, more legal immigrants over the course of this administration's tenure, in addition to the millions of illegal immigrants that they will make legal for the provisions we just talked about.
And so part of the analysis, too, that the Judiciary Committee put out saying immigration is good for America, we need more immigration. You know, right now there's obviously labor shortages, so that's part of the argument they're making. What do you say to that?
This is so cruel to American poor people, it's unspeakable. People forget that with this massive amount of unskilled labor coming into the country, the people who are hurt the most are American poor people. So let's set aside illegal immigration for a moment. That already hurts our poor people by taking their jobs and depressing their wages. And we know this because the opposite is also true. At the end of 2019, not widely known, we reached the lowest poverty rate in recorded American history, 10.4%. Part of how we got there was massive improvements in 2019 for American poor people, not just because of tax cuts and deregulation that got our economy going, but also because of strong enforcement of our immigration laws, protected the lower end of the wage scale, protected American poor people. You remember the discussions about lower Black unemployment, low Hispanic unemployment. President Trump achieved, and his economy achieved, the lowest levels of unemployment for Blacks and Hispanics ever, and we achieved the lowest poverty rate ever, and it was because we protected our poor people.
Be sure to watch the entire episode, now available exclusively at EpochTV.com, a new completely censorship-free premium subscription platform, brought to you by the Epoch Times. See you there.